Lead together, embrace change, enhance everyone's journey. The 3 core principles of SmartStop, a leader in self-storage real estate across North America, reinforce why we're proud to bring you SheEO Lead-In, the podcast featuring curated conversations with powerful women sharing their impactful wisdom. It's a self-knowledge, self-discovery, and self-preneurship audio storage vault created by and for women. SmartStop's presentation of SheEO Lead-In begins right now.
Have you ever felt that you as a woman may not appear to measure up when you see incredible women in strong roles? You may be surprised when hearing from women in these positions and how we all share many of the same challenges. Thank you for joining us for the SheEO Leading-In podcast with Rebecca Jones as we share the journeys of women.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Jones, your host of SheEO Lead-In. We are on an exploration together to discover more about the personal journeys of incredible women in both career and life. We all have paths to share that sometimes take incredible turns, deep resilience, and courage to navigate. My hopes are that the challenges shared here encourage women to take leaps of faith and growth when a journey feels too difficult or unachievable. There is great strength deep within each one of us. These stories are meant to share the ways strong women have taken their dreams to strive and thrive to new heights, despite their sometimes rocky paths, and found a way to lead in. Today we're here with Kayla Schaffroth, the owner and founder of Project Performer. How are you today, Kayla?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to hear your story. So maybe you could kind of break the ice with us just a little bit. Do you have a fun story you'd like to share from your childhood?
Whoa.
That
okay.
nobody knows.
Wow. A fun childhood story. Wow. I'm just trying to think through all of a sudden I can't think of any stories. But how about,
were you always a performer?
Okay. Yes. So let's talk about performing world.
Yes.
Yes. So I started dancing when I was very young, 3 years old. And I loved dancing. I did that until I was in middle school. And then I ended up falling in love with theater and doing musical theater. And I guess those are my memories of childhood, is really being on the stage a lot. I did multiple youth productions. Then I went to high school, did high school productions, then community theater, then moved into the professional world. And I went into college and got my BFA in musical theater. But yeah, I think that is like that. How fun is that for performers to be on stage? That is where we thrive the most, and we enjoy our time on stage the most, probably.
You know what I have found? That many people that are performers are very shy when they're face to face, but then they light up the stage. Why is that? Do you know?
That's so funny that you mentioned that, because I do believe that's true. Where a lot of when people come in and they're like, my kid is like super outgoing, that's why they're meant to be on stage. I'm like, that's not necessarily true. Right. It's really the ones that I've noticed are actually the strongest actors are the ones that are the more quiet ones, the shyer ones, because they're able to observe what happens, how people communicate with each other, interact with each other, and they just tend to be like my feelers, right? The people who can feel things really deeply. And that was how I was as a kid. I was a very shy kid, actually, because if people know me now, I come off very personable, very social, but that's actually a learned skill. And I do attribute a lot of that to theater work and being on stage, but that was not something that came easy to me. And so I think it's just that they can see what's happening around them, and they're able to connect that and make that become apparent with how they take on a character.
So extroverts are not always what they seem. Introverts might be better.
Right. In many ways, I think
Yeah.
that the perfect mix would be somebody who knows how to, make eye contact. That's what we're talking about, like how this generation of kids is having a difficult time really like looking you in the eye and being able to greet you and hold a conversation. But yeah, you're totally right. I think it's not always the outgoing ones.
Well, and that's kind of an interesting conversation because a lot of people initially think, oh, an extrovert would be better. But I've actually seen such a change in some people that I see as an introvert, and then they get up on the stage and they just light up and they really come alive because that's where they're comfortable because
Totally.
they're in the moment. And so I think
totally.
that's really cool. Okay, so do you have one word that describes you the best?
Yes. So I think if I was to pick one word, it would be thoughtful. I feel like I'm a thinker, so I think a lot. I don't know if you're a Harry Potter fan, but I would be a Ravenclaw because I just feel like that's where I thrive. I think about how things affect people and how things feel, and I think that's probably why I leaned into the theater world so early, is because I was an emotional kid, which comes with its ups and downs. Being a thoughtful person means also like overthinking things and taking things too extreme. And but I would say either probably like thoughtful or overall grounded. That's what I would feel about myself.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about success and failure. How do the two correlate to you, and what are your thoughts about failure? Because in my opinion, for me, whenever I've failed, I've actually learned things. And I think it's important and I tell my kids all the time, they're in their 20s now, but they always say, Mom, why do you say that all the time? I'm going to be learning until the day I die. And I think that's a really important part of growth and becoming the best version of yourself. So what are your thoughts on that, on success and failure and how those have played into your life?
Oh, I love that. So I'm a big believer that rejection is redirection. And that's kind of my motto in my life, in that I truly feel like my success of being where I am now, which is an owner and a CEO of this company that's doing very, very well for itself, it's because of the times I was rejected. So, for example, in college, imagine me, little freshman, 18-year-old. I'm going into my first few weeks of college, and there's these auditions for this show. It was Les Mis at the time, and I remember this. And I went up to Washington. This is like, I live in San Diego. Go up to Washington. I don't know a soul in Washington, so I'm at this new school, and I do my auditions, and then the cast list comes out, and I am truly like one of the only ones that did not get into the show. And it was like, at that time, was earth shattering. Obviously, looking back, I'm like, it wasn't that big of a deal. But at that time, I was so sad because I'm like, what do I do for the next 6 months? Now I have nothing to do. I feel so rejected. I feel just so down about myself. And it was truly that moment that redirected me to think, what if I don't need to wait for people to give me the opportunity to do something? Is it possible that I can create something myself and allow myself to step into that? Which led to me creating my own shows and producing my own work. And I was like, I'm not going to let anybody tell me when I can't be on stage, which also I think then led me into creating my own business. So I do think, and it's like, thank God I didn't get into that show. Cause like, what if I did? And I just was like, oh yeah, I just need to wait around for people to give me that opportunity. What would that have taught me? And so I totally am thankful for that day that I got rejected from that show.
I love that saying, rejection is redirection.
Yes.
That is actually, I've never heard that before. I love the way that just rolls. Very easy to remember, but also a really important thing to, use and keep in your little arsenal of when something happens that you don't think it's the best thing for you. Sometimes it actually can be, because then you took that step and said, hey, you know what? What if I start making those roles for myself?
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about balance. It's sometimes hard. I always feel like a lot of people think, oh, I'm crushing it today. And then the next day they feel like they're failing. What about you? Like personal life and work? How does that look for you?
Yeah. It is tough to balance it all, and it is still something I am trying to figure out. I was talking to my fiance actually yesterday, and I was like, life is messy. Like, do we need to make sure it's like we almost feel like we need to organize everything and make everything less messy, like, and then that's when we will be happy. But it's not that way. It truly is like working within the chaos and the mess and nothing is ever going to 100% fall into place. You can't wait for things to fall into place for you.
You know what? I have to tell you, Kayla, I am my I was kind of making that mind exploding picture in my head. It's true because nothing ever is smooth. It's not life. It's not reality. Mm-mm. And to have this little picture, I'm going to have this little box and everything's going to be nice and packed in there and I'm going to have a little bow on top. It's not life because things happen. You can't control everything.
Right.
And in fact, I tell people this all the time. I've realized that I can control very little. And it's only the stuff that has to do with me personally, has nothing to do with, I mean, your car breaks down. Did you really have any control over that? Probably not. You get a flat tire. Was that under your control? Probably not. So many things are outside of your control. You're never going to control them. And waiting and saying, okay, well, when this happens, I'm going to be happy. When that happens, I'm going to be happy. It's not realistic.
No.
And that is such a wise way of looking at it because I want our listeners to really catch that. There's always going to be tomorrow and there's always going to be something that comes up. And are you going to wait until your last breaths and then say, well, then look at all the life you've wasted?
Yeah. Yes.
That's really good. Okay. So being a female leader, what are your biggest obstacles, especially starting your own business and, being in the field of theater and acting and performing? What are your thoughts? What have you encountered?
Yeah, so big obstacles. So I feel like the business world is, can I say it's pretty male dominated, I'd say.
Yep.
Theater world, I feel like there is definitely more females in theater. But in terms of like the obstacles I have to go, well, personal obstacles is I didn't know much about business. What I did know was that I was really good at what I did, which was working with kids, making them feel seen, making them feel heard, getting them to where they need to get to, getting the roles, the jobs, getting into the college they wanted to get into. But then when I decided to take it into a business, I was like, oh my God. Like there is a huge learning curve. So I feel like that was one of the big challenges. And also, I'm reluctant to say this, but I do feel like there is still some, not judgment around female leaders, but when I go in and I'm like, for example, when I am trying to negotiate some leases right now, and there is almost like a sense of not feeling like I'm always on the same playing field as another male, especially as a young female. It's been tough to have some of those conversations with the older, I guess, male business owners. But I think it's because I feel like, and we were talking about this, it always comes back to you. It's your insecurities, your, how you view yourself. And it's because at that time I was like, oh, well, I don't feel like I have enough information. There's a lacking sense. And that's not true. I don't need to feel the way that I don't need to feel that way. That you do have the answers, you do have the resources to figure it out, and that you're right where you're supposed to be.
Well, and let's face it, not every man has the answer either.
Yep.
And I would caution you to also think too that it could be that there is a perception or an attitude toward you that is also making you feel that way. Because I feel like a lot of times as a woman in business, I'm underestimated and maybe someone thinks that I don't know the answer to that question or whatever. I spend a lot of time being over-prepared for things.
Yes.
So I show up. I don't always say something at first. I listen. And then when the time comes, I generally am sharing information that's germane at the moment, and people aren't expecting that from me.
Can we talk about that for
Yes,
a second?
yes.
Okay, because you just said that you spend a lot of your time listening.
Yes.
And I have realized that as a business owner, I thought business ownership would be a lot of talking. And that's what leadership is. It's like, okay, you're always talking. You have to take control. But what I've learned is that it's honestly more listening than speaking. And that's what I feel like that's a female superpower, that we listen. So, I feel like at least the females in my life and the ones that I look up to, we're great listeners, which makes us, I feel like, great leaders, because that's what it is. You have to hear out what is happening in the room, and you have to observe and take it in, and be able to make decisions based on what you're seeing and the information you're gathering, rather than just busting into a room and be like, this is how it is, because that's not really leadership, in my opinion. It's really recognizing multiple different points of view.
So let's pick up on that in just a second after we have SmartStop.
SmartStop knows the winning connection is when we elevate success together. SmartStop Self Storage, a California company with nearly 200 properties and over 15 million square feet of rentable storage in the US and Canada, is committed to positively impacting the communities we serve on the national and local level. By aligning our core principles of leading together, embracing change, and enhancing everyone's journey with local initiatives focused on education, health, and social welfare, we all elevate together. Through financial and strategic partnerships with nonprofits and prestigious organizations such as Cloudcast Media, Arrow McLaren IndyCar, Breast Cancer Research Foundation, Wounded Warrior Project, USC Athletics, the Brampton Steelheads, MMA fighters and boxers, and other unique athletes, we aim to foster a sense of unity and pride within the communities we serve, creating a shared identity and generating a positive atmosphere. To learn more about our core values, our locations, and career opportunities, please visit us at smartstopselfstorage.com. SmartStop, elevating success together.
So you're right about the superpower part of it, because I know that when I'm listening, I'm also thinking about all of the things that are coming into that conversation. And then generally you're trying to figure out how to get over an obstacle or something like that. All the different things that are happening, I'm actually formulating some of the things that I'm thinking that I'm going to say that would be solutions for whatever's happening at that moment. So I love that. I love that you think that's a superpower, because it is. And we are very good at that because, well, many times when you're a mother, you've got like 20 things going on, and you're trying to, and you can go, okay, I'm going to deal with this one first, that one first, and you're kind of prioritizing. So it is definitely a superpower, I think, of women, whether you're a mother or you're not. I think a lot of those things just come very naturally to us. So let's talk about role models and mentors for a moment. Men, women, or equal, both. What have you dealt with, or what do you have in your life?
Yeah. So the first one that comes to mind is I have this, and now I can say that she's an incredible friend of mine. Her name's Kristen Fogel. She's an executive director of Writers Inc. She's also this incredible director and writer, and she's honestly probably the first person that really showed belief in me as a youth, and cast me in my first like non-youth show. It'd be a community or professional show. And from then she just kind of like, she gave me this hope that I guess it comes back to just belief in in me, in my abilities, in my talents. And she kept kind of bringing me back, whether it was to choreograph, whether it was to perform in something, and just kind of guided me in the right direction. And she has played such a huge part in my life. And that's the first person that comes to my mind.
Okay, interesting that you say that. So I've always felt that, like, for me, it was never really my family members that inspired me the most to see what I have inside of me. I feel like it was other people that were in my life. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just the only one, but I have had people the same, just say, hey, you know what? You're really good at this. You should explore that in yourself. And it was not my parents or my family members. It was someone outside that saw that in me And I've really excelled when I've listened to that. And nearly every woman that's been on the show has said, hey, you know what the biggest obstacle was in me becoming the best version of myself? Me. Because you're afraid to take that step. But it seems to me that you really have gone that extra after you've, had people tell you, hey, I believe in you.
Yeah.
Try this, just really help you learn. So let's talk a little bit about lessons learned. What would you say would be a really good piece of advice for young women to hear that they could apply to their lives?
That's a great question. I think one would be that you don't need to wait for permission. That you don't need to feel like there's not a moment where you're like, oh, I'm ready. Let's do it. I think that you can open your own doors and create your own opportunities, and that you don't need to wait. I give you permission to not need to wait for all the pieces to come together, because they don't always need to come together before something great happens. And then another one I have is clear is kind. And I think for me, I am a recovering people pleaser. And so it was always kind of a little bit difficult to be upfront and have those like difficult conversations. But I found that in the clarity and the truth of what you're saying, that's kind. But also, honesty cannot exist without kindness.
True. Well, and let's talk about that for a minute, because it's such a weird world right now. No one wants to say anything, and when they say it, they're oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes saying it in such a caustic way. It's not kind, and it is good to be real and honest, but it needs to be done in a loving way.
Yes,
I think that's uniquely a woman thing. Maybe I'm wrong, but
another superpower.
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it is. And it's like in my job, it's sometimes very difficult because you cannot make everyone happy in my job. So being able to say, you know what, I want to try to include everyone, and not everyone thinks that, that's always something you're trying to do, but I want to include everyone. And how do we get to that? How do we figure out how to bring everyone to the table? Because let's face it, a community is knit together with all different kinds of people, whether it's in a job, a performing community, or whatever. It's always a lot of different people coming together. Absolutely. That are different personalities, different beliefs, all of it, but they're all important.
Yeah.
And how do you bring that together? It's tough, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's tough. I would assume that probably in your job, it's got to be a lot of very strong personalities.
Yes.
What does that look like?
Yeah. Oh, gosh. There is a lot of, yeah. I mean, I guess I'm just trying to think back on trying to form this in the most thoughtful way. So we have our parents of these kids who are very invested in what their kids are doing. So as a joke, I'm always like, have you watched Dance Moms? Are you familiar with the kind of the investment of these moms? Which I don't think, I mean, I actually love our parents. I think I love that they are invested, because I'd rather have a parent invested rather than like, not invested at all, and you do whatever you want to do. So I have parents coming at me with different expectations of what's to happen. I have staff that, that have expectations. I have collaborators, so people coming in. There's a lot of different people. And again, that comes back to the listening and just not getting worked up.
Right.
Now I'm still early within my business, but earlier I would get so worked up. I would have so much anxiety over any kind of negative leaning conversation, upset people, conflict. Yeah. Again, the recovering people pleaser in me, it feels very harmful for my heart. But then I you have to kind of navigate that and realize that's everybody is dealing with their own stuff, right? And so they're coming in and they're just sharing their thoughts and feelings, and I don't need to get so involved in it emotionally, but I mean I do, because I do care so much. but it's just listening without the emotions rising.
Right.
And taking in information is important.
Well, and I've got to imagine it's got to be really tough at times because, for instance, if someone's child is not part of a production, or maybe they haven't done a good job that day or whatever. I mean, we all have things that are going on, to not take that personally. And it's important not to take it personally, because the truth is, again, back to what I said earlier, we can really control so very, very little.
Yes.
And just being able to have that connection, because you need to have it to some degree, but also being able to take a step back to say, it's okay. I can't control this right this moment. And it's going to be what it is, but I need to try to figure out how to calm the situation as much as possible.
Yes.
It's a lot of moving parts, I can only imagine.
Absolutely. Yes. And can I add one more thing? 'Cause
Sure.
Conflict is going to happen. And something that really helped me is being able to, like if you were to have that conversation, to step away from it, do a pattern disruption. So that it's told, like, do something that you wouldn't normally do, like jump up and down, dance around, do something that shakes up how things are, and then write it down. And then also compare your thoughts to what actually happened. And being able to do that work actually really helped me get to where I needed to get to as well, because you're not going to have no conflict, and figuring out how you deal with that is going to be very helpful in your road to success.
So every day when you wake up and you're like, okay, I'm going to go to work now, what are you most passionate about? What is your why?
My why is my little me, who desperately wanted a home like what Project Performer is to many of these kids. And I'd say that's my number one. And then number two is the kids themselves as well, because this is our next generation of leaders, of performers, of lawyers, and to be able to invest in them and make them feel seen and heard. And that is like, and I can tell like my emotions are actually heightening right now, because it's just so much my passion. And I love seeing, like, when a parent comes up to me and they're like, thank you for opening this, because this is my daughter. This is like the first place she has felt really, seen, happy, thought of. It feels like this is accepted.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's really a big one. Especially, I think, during the pandemic, we saw so many mental health issues where, kids were really suffering. And to be able to express themselves and really come out of that shell after being, shut down for a while and, emotionally not connecting with others face to face and all of that, it really is a suffering situation. And to be able to provide something for them to get out of that is really cool. So I guess my question would be, what advice would you give to our next generation of leaders? Female leaders, specifically.
Female leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. So I think, again, that you are in charge of your own destiny. You can create your own opportunities. You don't need to wait for people to grant you the permission to do what you want to do, be who you want to be. And that the answers are truly within you.
Nice. Okay, what's next for you?
What is next? So we're looking at expanding. That's kind of like the exciting rumble that is happening. We have this adorable 2-studio space in Encinitas, which has served us so well. But we're looking at kind of taking up more space because we've gotten to kind of max capacity. And it's just, it's a tough market right now in terms of space and leases and all that stuff. So I think that's kind of like my next challenge, but also my next exciting future.
Well, I wish you all the luck and just a great journey for you, and really excited to see what you'll do next. So we look forward to watching you and seeing what happens. And thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And sharing all about what you do. It sounds so exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now that was powerful. We hope you've been lifted and encouraged by today's inspiring voice. Always remember that life doesn't look exactly the same for each one of us. Never stop dreaming, striving, and thriving. In future episodes, we look forward to bringing you powerful stories from amazing women who learned how to lead in to challenges. Thank you for listening and being part of our community with SheEO host, Rebecca Jones.
The incredible curated SheEO conversation you just enjoyed was brought to you by SmartStop, a leader in self-storage real estate and a company that upholds its core principles of leading together, embracing change, and enhancing everyone's journey. To learn more about SmartStop, please visit smartstopselfstorage.com.
Cloudcast Media.